Hello, baseball fans. Welcome back to Yankees Talk. I'm Ben, and I'm here to bring you today's biggest news, biggest hot takes, and Yankees information. Now, let's start off. We had two major signings today. As you can see from the title, big names have come off the market again, and there were two big ones yesterday. Let's start off with Dansby Swanson. This actually happened this past afternoon. Dansby signed a 7-year, $177 million deal with the Chicago Cubs. No surprise, the Cubs were chasing after every single shortstop on the market. They were going after Correa and Xander. They're also looking at Trey Turner before he signed with the Phillies, but it ended up being Dansby. They got one of the big names and big splashes like they wanted. It all happened, and they got what they wanted. Dansby, he had a great year last year. He had a batting average of 277, 25 home runs, 96 RBIs, and an OPS of 776. He had a great year with the Braves, World Series ring the year before, solid, actually not even solid, above average, phenomenal shortstop overall, won the 4 big names this year. And I think that was a great move for the Cubs, and now they could possibly contend for the division title. Maybe not yet, but they're in that really nice stage right now where they just got a big name. Next, let's go. I'm sorry, Yankees fans. I was talking about this in yesterday's video. It's sad to see him go. Benintendi. Andrew Benintendi got signed by the White Sox. 5 years, $75 million deal. It sucks. Great all-around player, great average guy. He has great contact. He doesn't hit for a ton of power, but you don't really need as much power, especially if you're a contact guy. So he had a really solid season last year. He hit over 300. He had a batting average of 304. He only had 5 home runs, but again, not a power guy. So contact is where his specialty is at. Above average defender, phenomenal there. He had 51 RBIs and an OPS of 772. So he had a great year, phenomenal overall. Great move by the White Sox. After losing Jose Abreu to the Astros, it seemed as if they were going to get a bit worse, and they did, obviously. But signing Benintendi really increases their team and their overall chemistry and just what the team can do now. Next, let's move on to the Astros. The Astros have clearly needed an outfielder. They lost Brantley, and they want to fill the hole that they have. So they've been in touch with multiple guys. They've been in touch with actually Michael Brantley again. They've been in touch with Michael Conforto and Jurickson Profar. All these guys are free agents. Now, this being said, this doesn't mean that they might be active in the trade market too. Max Kepler is drawing interest from many teams, as well as Brian Reynolds, as he requested a trade from the Pirates. So the Astros could also be in the trade market. It's just the main free agents left are these three who are bigger, and they could be possibly signed by him. Let's move on next. The Red Sox are looking to possibly reunite with JD Martinez. This would be a great move for them. A great move. After losing out on Xander, they need to get some good hitting back. And JD, sure, he's 35, but you can sign him to a 1-2 year deal, 3 at most, I would say, but 1-2 year deal. He's been hitting pretty well, and he's a DH. He can play in the outfield, but honestly, him being a DH for the Red Sox was really good for them. He had a batting average of 274. He had 16 home runs, 62 RBIs, and an OPS of 789. He had a solid year. He's 35. I mean, sure, the numbers might drop a little bit over the next couple of years, but sign the guy. You're trying to build a team around Devers. You're trying to rebuild a organization that has lost many big players over the past couple of years, and this is one way to do it. Sure, he's old, but at the same time, you need to get somebody who's going to help your team, and JD is that guy. Next, let's go to teams interested in Kepler. Max Kepler has drawn many interest from teams such as the Yankees, possibly the Astros, even the Blue Jays. This is all due to Gallo signing with the Twins. Kepler, he had a little bit of a down year last year. He had a batting average of 227, 9 home runs, 43 RBIs, and an OPS of 666. He didn't have that great of a year. He's not the best defender either. He's not the worst defender. He's around average. And he really was performing well in 2017-18, but it's about to be 2023. He is obviously would fill some holes for teams, but he's not that over-the-top guy that you might want for teams or to help fill the voids. It might just create another one if he leaves, or it might create one in general, especially if he has a bad year. Don't get me wrong, he didn't have a terrible year, but it wasn't exactly ideal. He didn't have a ton of contacts, nor did he have a ton of power. So he was basically in between both, which you kind of want a guy either swaying towards one or the other, unless they have a good mix of both. So that's the only problem with Kepler at the moment. So I would say it makes sense that a lot of teams are interested in him, but at the same time, I would wait to see what happens with the rest of the market and trades and kind of leave Kepler to like a last resort option. Now, let's move on to the hot take segment. Let's start off with the catchers, actually. I'm going to go back to the Mets and say James McCann will be traded to the Astros. Listen, the Astros, they failed to re-sign Christian Vasquez. They were interested in him. They're also interested in Wilson Contreras, but he's on to the Cardinals. So, in my opinion, they're going to look for a guy that's tradable and for a team that is willing to trade with them at a reasonable price for a catcher who would do decent work for them. And sure, James McCann had a bad year last year, and he did really underperform. But at the same time, that's one bad year. He could bounce back this year. He could have a much better year. He could produce a lot more on offense and defense and help the Astros overall. And I could see the Astros giving up 1, 2, maybe like top 20 prospects for James McCann in order to be traded with him. And they get James McCann and the Mets get 2 of their prospects. And I think this is reasonable because now that the Astros are looking for a catcher, could be their guy, and he would add depth and potential starting ability for their future and for this year. Next, I would like to go to Jose Iglesias. He is quite possibly maybe one of the top remaining free agent shortstops now that all the big four are gone. Dansby, Xander, Correa, and Trey Turner. Jose Iglesias had a phenomenal year last year with the Rockies. And now that the Red Sox, yes, I could see Jose Iglesias going to the Red Sox. Now that the Red Sox have missed out on all 4 of the big names, failed to re-sign Xander, and now didn't sign Dansby, I could see Jose Iglesias going to the Red Sox and reuniting with them, as he played with them in 2011 and 2012 season. He had a great year last year, as I said. He had a batting average of .292. He hit 3 home runs, so he's more of a contact guy, but in most lineups, you're going to want to balance contact with power, and so that would work great in the Red Sox lineup at the moment. He had 47 RBIs and an OPS of 708. So he had a great year offensively. He's not a bad shortstop either. He's great on defense. So overall, that would be a great move for the Red Sox to get him back, as well as just filling the void that was left at shortstop. Sure, he's not as good as Xander, but at the same time, he's up there, and he's one of the better shortstops on the free agent market and ones they can claim right now. So I would love to see a move with Jose Iglesias reuniting with the Red Sox. That would be great. Lastly, for today's video, Yankees information. So I'd like to start off with the left field void. Benintendi's gone, and we need to fill the void. My first pick is Brian Reynolds being traded. And let's look at a realistic option for that. Reynolds has a couple years left on control, if we were to get him. And he's a phenomenal player, so that already raises his price in the first place. So plus the controllable years makes it even more. And sure, we have Jason Dominguez, who's going to be ready hopefully sooner than later, and had a phenomenal year last year in AAA. And I would love to get Reynolds for at least that time being before he's ready, because that would allow for the Yankees to get a guy to fill that void in left field for the time being. Hicks isn't producing enough. He's not the greatest defender anymore, and his offense has just depleted. So getting Reynolds would fix both of those, switch hitter just like Hicks, so we won't lose that aspect, and he's also better on offense and defense. Therefore, I would say a realistic trade would be giving up about 2 top 10 prospects and maybe a player swap with Hicks. So Hicks, 2 prospects, 2 top 10 prospects, and maybe a top 20 pitching prospect. I feel like that could draw enough interest from the Pirates. Sure, their asking price is high, but enough negotiations. I think that could work out to be a great price and a great deal to go through. And that would be a phenomenal trade for the Yankees, as they would get Reynolds for a couple of years while Dominguez, who could be an elite ball player, keeps producing, keeps up his great work in the minors, and hopefully is ready soon to come up. Another option, in my opinion, for the outfield is Jurickson Profar. The Padres, who have not re-signed him yet, who have left him for free agency, has had a pretty decent year in San Diego. He produced a lot for them, and he had a great season. Not the best, not the worst. And honestly, I would love to have Jurickson Profar on the team for a couple of years, like I said, before Jason Dominguez is ready to come up. But Profar, I could see him filling that void and filling it well, and he would be one of my top options. And my last piece of news and insight is perhaps getting one more bullpen arm. And no, I'm not saying a closer. Sure, a closer situation is a little iffy right now between either we should have Clay Holmes or Wandy Peralta. Do not re-sign Aroldis Chapman. That's not where I'm going. Trust me. But I'm just saying re-sign one more bullpen arm. We already got Tom McConnell back. And having one more bullpen arm in our area would be phenomenal. Everyone needs more pitching. Everyone. But especially a team who's competing and wanting to be a World Series favorite, who I want to sign just any good, decent reliever. I don't care who, righty, lefty, doesn't matter. As long as they're good, decent, and will help us keep runs from being scored, fine by me. But thank you all for watching. Like and subscribe and comment your reactions, thoughts, etc. And I hope to see you all soon.